Shut up, compressor. Hey everyone, Matt here with Duke's Models, and welcome to part 6 of the P-40F build. Now this is going to be a pretty short installment. I'm mainly going to focus on masking and spraying the French national insignias. Now, why am I doing that at this stage before I've painted any camo or any of that kind of stuff? Basically, because I haven't painted any camo. I want to use hairspray to do chipping along the wing roots and leading edges and, up around the cowl area and things like that. And hairspray and masks don't always play nicely together. So by spraying and masking the Insignias first, I can have all the fun I want with hairspray, not have to worry a damn about any sort of lifting. There's also the fact that these things were repainted for the French, and so around the Roundels, you have basically, either touched up paint, fresh paint, whatever. So the wing roundels are going to have dark earth around them, same around the fuselage. On the bottom, it'll just be like fresh azure, essentially. So I can just come in there and spray around them and not have to really worry about anything in terms of precision or, getting white in the wrong place and messing up what I want to do with the silver and all that kind of stuff. So with that, let's go ahead and start spraying. The upper wing roundels are funny because they're actually tiny, tiny little damn things. And they go kind of at the forward corners here of the gun access doors. So I've got some light Arctic gray loaded up in the airbrush. Light Arctic gray is basically a very dirty white, which I think will work well. Again, these are pretty small, but I want to make sure I don't get to like the red on the outer band and all of a sudden I've run out of white to cover with. So moving on, the underside roundels are substantially larger. Next up, we have the fuselage. Again, I'm covering a little bit too much area intentionally here. so I have some room for error and some room for placement. But these roundels are not that big. Alright, so the first step's knocked out. Next I'm going to give these a few minutes to dry, and then we're going to come in and we're going to start masking. And I think I've worked out a pretty cool process to make this as painless and pretty efficient as possible. So, back in a few. Okay, now that the white foundation is down, it's time to move on to step 2, which is spraying the blue at the center of the roundels. And to do that, I have cut an absolute fuckload of little tiny circles. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I am not a fan of the way that, say, Montex typically does roundels, where you essentially get something like this right here, where it's just a bunch of concentric rings, and you have to pull them and place them and keep everything from warping or stretching and keep them all aligned and all that. It's a huge pain in the ass. So I'm going to be using a technique that I kind of stole from the MiG-23 experience from several years ago with the Bulgarian markings, I think. And basically, instead of doing this whole, like, you know, place and pull, especially with these smaller ones where it'll be a pain in the ass to get those concentric rings, I have instead cut one that is basically just the center blue dot and then the entire rest of the ring. So my plan is to place this outer donut on the wing, and then the slightly larger ones on the fuselage, and the big ass ones under the wings. And I should probably check first to make sure that I got enough white, because those are bigger than I thought. Dear God. Anyway, then spray the blue, place the little dot, pull the bigger marking, grab this little smaller donut, place it around the blue again, spray the red, pull that, and then I have finally another little full radius dot to cover all of it. And that will cover it for painting and all that goodness. So let's begin. Okay, that's weird. Those are just placed willy-nilly on there. That's not very helpful. So we're going to kind of get to make up our own placement here. Right there looks pretty good. Okay. See, little tiny, tiny roundels on the upper surface of the wings here. Now, the fuselage ones are going to be interesting with these little raised sections right here. That might pose some issues, and I might have to readjust where I put it. Just a tiny little bit. So the way that I keep these aligned from side to side is to literally count rivets. If you look at where the roundel is placed right here, there are 4 rivets between the edge of the circle and this vertical line of rivets right here. And the blue opening is basically equidistant between these two. So that gives us some stuff that we can use to help mount the other one. 4. Come on. All right. Just like that. And look at that. Nice and aligned. Okay, next step is to mask around these a little bit and then spray some blue. All right, for the actual blue of the roundels, I'm going to be using Guns C322 Phthalo Cyan Blue. I think it's got a nice tone, looks nice and rich in blue, etc. And we'll see how it does when it goes down over the international blue. That is a nice looking tone. I just had this huge anxiety attack about whether or not I actually did both roundels on the bottom. I did. So let's go ahead and knock these out while we're holding it upside down. Okay, so there's the phthalo blue on all of the roundels. I'll let that sit for a few minutes, and we're going to move on to the next stage of the masking process. Okay, the blues had a little bit of time to set up, and so now it is time to place the dots. Come on. All right, note to self, maybe detack these a little bit first. Next, we're just going to come in here. And this represents the white area of the roundel. Alright, so I'm going to do the others, and we'll be back to spray some red. Okay, so I've placed all of the white protective roundels, and now it is time to spray some red, but I'm going to start with a basing red, as opposed to the final red. And that is MRP-42, which is the Russian chassis cover color. It's a bit tomatoey looking, but I kind of want that warmer orangeness going on, so it kind of fights the instinct to go pink. That fucking scratch. wide on this. I think this covers it, but again, last thing I would do is paint all the red and then go put the masking down and having it not cover. Alright, let me mix up some red and we'll be back to spray the actual red for the Roundels. Alright, time for the real red, and for this I'm using Gun's C327, which is their essentially Insignia red. Alright, so now that the colors have all been sprayed, it's time to apply the final mask that will protect the Roundels during the rest of painting. For that, we've got a good portion of the sheet to play with. So let's go ahead and knock the top ones out first. For those, we're going to be using these guys right here. Detack these slightly. Again, we want to come in and just place these right on top of current Roundels. And there you have it. All nice and protected. Okay, with that, I'm ready to call this installment a wrap. The focus, again, was on masking and applying the French national insignia in the 6 locations on the aircraft. And hopefully this has been a useful sort of quick primer on how to go about using masks to do Roundels. So again, just to recap nice and quickly, and here we'll use the underside because they're bigger and more fun to look at. So basically, first, spray the area white. Mask off the circle, the big circle essentially, with the donut hole open for whatever the center color is. In French it's blue, in the RAF it would be red, for example. Spray that color, put down your mask, lift up the other stuff, put down the next mask which covers the white in the middle, and spray the outer color. In this case red, in the case of the RAF blue, etc., etc. Remove that mask while leaving the center dot in place, and then place another mask that covers the entire roundel on the outside. And basically, before I start painting, I'm probably going to go in and put some liquid Frisket over this just to make sure there are no leaks or anything like that that happen. Other than that, we're good to go. So, yes, it's a little bit tedious, but it's also highly efficient, and as long as you aren't a dumbass who pulls away the center dot and fails to realize it, then all will be good. So that was fun. Stay tuned for the next installment where we're going to be tackling the camouflage, or at least part of the camouflage. I'm unsure how long it will take. I've got some kind of ambitious plans for this. So there will be some chipping. There will certainly be some underside focus, and we may get around to the top side as well. So thanks for watching. Hope this was useful. Catch you later.